Oh, hang on. Let me get the story. Yeah.
What are you going to relate to?
Right. I said, yeah, my kids aren't stupid.
Sometimes you gotta cheat your own.
Hey guys, Malcom's gearing up for a long Q&A. He's got a truly Miller Lite and this season. He's going to go down the line. Depending on how difficult the question is, he's going to reach for a different trade.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and open all three.
If it's a barbecue question, he goes chili. If it's a life question, he goes hard liquor.
That's right.
So
General is Miller Lite. Best taste of beer.
Miller Lite is a hunk. So thank you guys for having me, first of all. Appreciate it. I know both these guys from having them on my podcast, and then, like I said, when you have someone on your podcast, you talk about, life and something you're passionate about for an hour, you tend to feel like you're friends after that. So I reached out and said, hey man, I'm doing this tour, would you guys be cool being a part of it? And they said, without hesitating, yeah, figure it out, pick a date, let's do it. So thank you guys.
Hey, Dave, we appreciate it too, man. I didn't know how, when you approached me about it, I didn't know how comedy was going to go or how we were going to tie it into what we're doing here. I just knew that I love to laugh, love for my buddies and friends to come out, have a good time, eat, drink. And if we can get some laughs in, man, it's always good. So I consider you a friend now. And it was, doing podcasts and stuff, I've been a fan of comedy all my life. I'm not a comedian. I just like to have a good time.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man.
You get soft, John.
You're going truly.
Then he takes a sip of the hard liquor and he's like, fuck you, Dave.
You're not funny, you're a hack.
I don't want that soundbite out there. So, and this is totally cool being interactive. So, if you guys have a question, you can yell it out. Otherwise, we're just gonna bullshit and talk. All right. We'll just see where it takes us. Sorry,
I got a question.
all right, let's go.
Why the hell would you leave Florida to go to California?
That's a valid question.
Well, you know, when I made the decision to go to LA for my job, back then you kind of had to. It was like if you really wanted to take comedy seriously, everyone told you got to be in either New York or LA. But it's funny, like since then, you know, with podcasting and YouTube and all these other things, you could really do anything from anywhere. I'm already kind of invested there, and I have roots there. My kids are about to start high school and everything. So, I mean, I hate being far from my family that's in Florida, but you know, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're putting down.
I got some land on the river swamp. You can come podcast.
Also, school district there. But I'll tell you this: it is for what I do for a living for comedy. It is awesome being in LA because you can go out any night and do 2 or 3 sets and get a lot of like reps in and you know really work at what you're trying to do. And then it's crazy because you're around other people. I imagine it's like opening a barbecue restaurant in Austin, Texas. You can't half-ass it. It forces you to be the best because you have a lot of really great competition, and you're around other like-minded like people who want to be the best. So it forces you to be the best at what you're doing. If that makes sense.
So I got a question for you, Dave. How'd you get into barbecues? I hadn't heard that yet.
So I love eating barbecue. And I would travel around the country and always try to, you know, so we normally do shows Thursday to Sunday. And so my trick was on Thursday during my set, I go, I really love barbecue, guys. I'd love to hear what the best barbecue restaurant in town was. And then of course everyone's like, you know, they all yell out the answer, they think, and you can't ever. But afterwards, I'd be like, people during the meet and greets, people would be like, hey man, you gotta go to this place, you gotta go to that, don't go to this place. And then I could always just get a vibe for like, all right, I trust that guy, I don't trust that guy. You know? And so I go seek out the best barbecue. And then I went to, the first time I ever worked in Texas, so it was in Austin, and I was working for a guy named Paul Varghese. I was opening for him, I mean. And this guy could drink, right? So we were out late, putting on time on. And he goes, you like barbecue? And I go, I like barbecue. I'm a barbecue expert, bro. I eat barbecue all over the country. And he goes, I'm going to take you to eat some barbecue for lunch tomorrow. It's the best brisket you've ever had. And I said, what's brisket? He goes, you don't know shit about barbecue. So 11 a.m. the next day, he knocks on my hotel room door, and I go, what are you doing up so early? And he goes, we got to go eat barbecue. And I go, why we got to go so I didn't realize. He took me to 5 places. And it was like we were on a date. He ordered for me at every plate. I'm like, I think I'll have it. He's like, put the menu down. He's like, we're going to have the sausage, the turkey, the brisket, you know? And so we went all around, man. It's the first time I went to Salt Lick and all those places. And my eyes were open. So a few years of going and eating, I would book Texas gigs specifically to go eat in Texas. And I got mad finally one day. I just looked at my wife and I go, there's no good barbecue in LA. And this is bullshit, you know? And I go, I'm going to teach myself. And I went and I bought a terrible smoker from Home Depot and started the process of learning. I started watching YouTube clips. And I mean, I watched so much. That's what I told you. I go, way before I knew your name, I go, I knew your voice. Because you were just a dude whose link I could click on. And I know your cadence and your voice. And then after a while, I started learning who everyone was and the personalities and names and everything. But yeah, that's how I started. I just got mad that I couldn't get good at LA barbecue, and I decided to teach myself. And now there's actually some good places in LA you can go. There's been a little bit of a movement there. There's a lot of pop-up guys who have really great offset smokers, and they pull up the breweries and cook. And now there's some brick and mortars, you know, from those same guys. And there's some good places you can eat out there. But 6 years ago, forget about it. You couldn't eat good barbecue much better yourself.
Does your wife like barbecue?
She does. I would love for you guys to answer this question too. My wife does love barbecue. She says of all the dumbass hobbies I've leaned into, this is her favorite one.
Y'all know Rochelle. She could probably cook better barbecue than I can.
She was doing some mean stuff in that kitchen today. So she made that horseradish sauce?
She did make the horseradish sauce. That was the prime rib, yeah.
I think.
Every side that you had tonight, Rochelle made.
Y'all don't realize how much Rochelle done this. Like, this is her. This ain't us.
So you should
name the red how to marry her.
That's right. Not a bad idea.
Hey, Michelle.
Mark, you made it out.
So I think I talked to you on the podcast about this stuff. Like everyone always asks me, where's my favorite places to eat barbecue? And I think once you get to the highest levels, like the meat, there's a very fine line between this guy's brisket and that guy's brisket, like the best places in the world, right? But I think the thing that sets it apart is the sides, maybe the ambiance, but the sauces, the stuff like that, man. So when you have something like that fresh made horseradish sauce, putting it on top of already incredible meat, I mean, that just blows my dome. Or like, you know, the first time I had someone who made a homemade coffee sauce and things like that. To me, that's what sets people like to the next level. What I'm saying is I really like the horseradish sauce.
What you getting at?
I got a question for you, Malcolm. Talk a little bit about once you made the move into YouTube and maybe the progression of, you know, from just we're on YouTube Live right now with my like 3 followers. So talk about when you started the YouTube thing and then like the timeline where it kind of blew up.
Well, I need Rochelle to help with this. No, when we started YouTube, we still don't know what we do. We learned it all as we go. So as we went, we just knew that video, and Rochelle was working in marketing and kind of had this, I don't know, vision or whatever you call it. Everything was kind of going to video, and YouTube was a great place to share that kind of content. So when we started, we didn't have any video knowledge. I didn't have any presence behind the camera. I barely could write a newsletter. I hated writing. That was not my forte. I was a math and science guy. I hated it. But she would just grab a camera and tell me to be myself. A lot like we're doing here tonight.
Yeah.
And it's not acting. It's not putting on. It's just hanging out and doing what you love to do. And so that's what we did. In front of the camera, she would record me. We had basic equipment. We didn't have anything fancy because we didn't have the money for anything fancy. I mean, we were making it week to week. When it came time to do barbecue, I had lost a job in construction because the economy had turned, and it was like all we had to do was barbecue. And so we said we were going to make it or break it. And so I was making some rubs and selling those. She grabbed the camera. I had an iPhone, and that's what we used. And so we started recording it and putting it up. We had no idea that anybody was going to watch it, but we knew that if we started, and we would learn as we go, and we didn't stop, we just were consistent, and that's a process of the same way I do today. We haven't changed much. We changed some equipment, changed some settings, but the style and the way I talk to people and the way I cook hasn't changed. It's just about sharing and always trying to be better.
Well, the thing that people tell me a lot too, I'm like, my journey in barbecue is like the baby steps to where you're at, obviously, right? But the cool thing to me that means a lot to me is that my peers tell me, Dave, we're interested in your passion for barbecue because it's authentic. And it's not like you're putting like a character on or you're not faking it, that you truly love barbecue, right? Whether I do a good job or not of cooking it, it's like I'm having a great time doing it. And I think that comes through with your videos too. Like, you're up there and I think your first ones were just in your kitchen at home, right?
Yeah, and they're still right outside.
Yellow kitchen.
You do realize you have a beautiful facility here you can shoot at. This is just for parties.
No, Mark's the one that's got the nice outside kitchen. He's built it.
Just about get good at videos. We got,
Yeah.
we got it backwards.
But Mark, so now you're building your YouTube presence too, and you're doing well with it. So maybe same question to you.
So I'm gonna hats off to Malcom and Michelle. They pushed us. So that's what made really, it was like we had to grow in this business just like everybody else did. And, I looked at it to start with, we cooked because we had good friends, we had a good time, it was competitive. But I mean, this is truly one of the deals where you can be passionate about your job and grow it. And that's what we try to do. And I mean, he pushes the point where, like you said, I really don't know what I'm doing. He said, he don't know what he's doing. I really don't have a clue. And I mean,
That beef rib today says different, man.
he said that was in the freezer 5 hours ago. It really was. That was just a fluke. I mean, that was good meat. It turned out. But I mean, honestly, it was. But I mean, if we, I have a very good wife that really pushes me, and she's the camera lady, and she's one of the people that's not scared to step on your toes if you screw up or look like an idiot. She's like, that's something to do again. So we just do it again. The editing makes us look good.
Something tells me all of our wives will get along just fine. My comedy career, that's been my wife to me. It's like, I run a joke by her during the day, and she will not, if it's not a good premise, she will not be polite. She'll be like, that's dumb. And if she comes out to a show and I see her laughing, I go, I know it's a funny bit. She would never give a pity laugh, So I feel like that's probably pretty consistent with all of our wives. So you guys got something for us?
So, how did you get into barbecue tour? Do you have like a buddy that does hot wings, and another guy that does like hamburger joints, or?
What, dude, nothing would be more flattering than if comics started doing this. There's like a pizza guy. That's why I do, you asshole.
Late to the show?
I mean, food and comedy, it's nothing new. I mean, my buddy Jesus Trejo is a, successful comedian, and he loves tacos and Mexican food, right? He's Mexican, and it's his heritage. And so he had a very popular web series called Tacos con Todo, I think it was called. And it was great. He just went to talk. Same thing I do. He goes to taco joints and he talks to the people. And rarely is it about the food. Look, we gather for the food and we love eating it. We love talking about it. But it's more about the people that made the food and people that come and enjoy the food. The food is just the vehicle that really lets you connect with the people. Barbecue, what I've learned on this tour specifically, is if there's a barbecue place that's been in business for more than a few years and it's also a popular place, there's no way that those are shitty people running that place. Like it's going to be people that are passionate and chose one of the harder logistic genres to pull off, and they must really love barbecue if they're there. So I think that although I'm sure there's a lot of cool stories in burger joints and pizza places and wing places, there's no way you're going to find the substance you're going to find in people that make a decision to sell food that takes 12 hours to cook.
Yeah. Barbecue's passion. I mean, that's why we do it. And a lot of you, it's all about sharing. And that's been my thing with it too. Same way, you see that when you go out and go to these barbecue joints that people go there and they support these people and they come back for the food, not just because it's good food, it's because it's a way of life. It's kind of your thing that you share.
Yeah, man, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. But if there's money to be had in sprouting out to other jobs, I'll do it. If the barbecue thing dries up, I'll switch to it. I actually,
We're riding this barbecue thing out. We're not switching genres.
what a badass. Well, fucking fish is popular now.
Fish, right? Hey, it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea.
She'll buy it, no matter.
Chuck, damn.
Oh, get into that domain.
We gotta buy that website.
Get on it.
How to tune her right.
I don't know about that
So that story I told about the chicken wing getting stuck in my head, That's a very popular place in Auburn, Alabama, where I went to school, called Willie's Wings, right? So, yeah, so she knows. She's from Auburn. So, Willie's, first of all, this place is legendary. I'm in my 40s now, and my friends and I still talk about it, which I go to school to move there. You know, and we have so many stories. We were out camping one time, and we called them, and they make no bones about being a stoner operation. Like, I can't tell you how we ordered wings and the delivery guy would come in and play Call of Duty with us for like an hour. Or we'd order wings and we'd be like, hey man, we will pay you whatever you want. You pick up some beers on the way here. And they'd be like, all right, sounds cool. So it's just, they're literally on their branding, on their shirts and stuff, it says, we don't care how you got the munchies, just how you take care of them. That's it's that kind of place. But I never knew who owned the place, but the same guy, Brant, still owns it, right? So when I was going to Auburn last week on this tour, I was going to interview the guy who owns the barbecue restaurant, Byron Smokehouse, where I fell in love with eating barbecue in college. I'm telling you, I ate there 4 or 5 times a week. Couldn't have been healthy, but I had metabolism back then. And he would sponsor all our water polo tournaments. It was a great place, right? So then the Willie's Wings guy caught wind of me being in town and goes, hey, would that guy want to come over and meet me? And so someone called me and asked me, would you want to interview the Willie's Wings guy? And I go, fuck yes, I would. I can't wait to meet this guy, right? So I show up and I interview him for the podcast. And it was just, the whole podcast was me just telling him stories about how terrible his delivery guys were. Logistically, but how much we love them. I can't tell. So we were camping one time, and we were in the middle of nowhere, and we were all hammered, so we couldn't drive anywhere, and we realized we were packing food. So we called Willie's, and we go, we're camping, could you deliver out here? And they go, probably not. Well, where are you? And we told them where we were, and they were like, yeah, that sounds really dangerous. And we're like, well, what if we met you at the Busy Bee, which was this one gas station in the middle of nowhere. And we're like, we figured we could drunk drive there at least, right? and the guy was like, you just heard like one, it was like on speakerphone, you just heard one like delivery guy in the back go, I'll do it! So this guy met us, it was like a drug deal or something. This guy met, we ordered 200 wings. And he met us at the Busy Bee in the middle of nowhere. And we got him, we took him back to our campsite and picked up. And you would always order in increments of 100. It was like, you could get 6, 12, 20, or for $8 more, you could get 100. So we'd always be like, economically, we should get 100. So one time in college, my buddy from Miami came and visited me, and we went out partying, and the next day we're all banged up. I had a scrimmage for water polo. So I go, I'm so banged up, but I'm playing water polo, right? Scrimmaging Georgia Tech. And then we got to take them out to lunch at a place called Cheeseburger. So I go pick my buddy up, and we go to Cheeseburger for lunch. And they have this challenge where you eat a pound burger. But it's not like a good burger. It's like a diner burger, raw in the middle, soggy with grease, right? So, yeah. So my buddy and I go, let's eat a pound burger and get our picture on the wall, right? And he's like, I'm in here. So we do it. We eat a pound burger each. We're like, those are the dumbest thing we ever did in our life. We got our picture on the wall. So we go home. We're watching USA Network for like 8 hours. And I look over and I go, I'm hungry. She goes, me too. So we order 100 wings from Willie's. We start gnawing on Willie wings. We look down, we only got like 15 wings to go. And I look up and I go, we got to finish these wings. But we had all these different sauces, right? So it was like, at that point, we were so full from eating a pound burger and 100 wings. So we're like negotiating. I go, all right, I'll eat 3 of the suicide wings, but you eat 6 of the sweet and sour wings, and then I'll eat 2 of the lemon pepper, and we're done, right? And we did. We ate a pound burger each and 50 wings each in one day. And that's the greatest thing I've ever accomplished in my life.
But if there's one thing I've learned tonight, I've underestimated water polo. In the next Olympics, I'm looking for the Netherlands, and I'm finding Marco, whatever his name is.
Well, so his name, I don't know how to put this like into the bit, but his name was Marco Kuntz, and we picked it because one, any water polo player named Marco is funny.
I just don't
Marco. That's just funny, right? counts, kind of. So we were like, we're rooting for this guy. Yeah.
Hey, Marco Polo was violent at the South End of JC. That was the game. That's all we know about Polo and Marco Polo. I don't think it was the same game.
Very different. But I love it now, man. Anytime I can mix two of my passions, it makes me so happy. So like, my kids going to all these water polo camps around LA and stuff, you know? And that's the other reason why I live in LA, by the way. LA is the mecca of stand-up comedy, and it's the mecca of water polo. So if I could live in one city and do both things, and the only thing missing was the barbecue, and I figured that out on my own. So I'm doing all right there. You know, I tell them all the time, I'm like, hey man, I'll cook barbecue for all the campers on the last day. And they're like, we don't want you to go through any trouble. I'm like, it would be a pleasure to. So I love it. That's why when I go on tour, I don't know, you know, a lot of you guys know that I opened for a guy named Bert Kreischer, who's a pretty popular comedian right now. So that's been a big thing for me too, is that I cook, I bring I have a Rectech 340, a little pellet smoker that folds up. We throw it in the bottom of the tour bus. It's on the back of my trailer right now. And, you know, I started cooking barbecue on the road. And that's really gave me a platform for this too, because Bert's got a lot of Instagram followers, so he'd always be Instagramming briskets and shit that we do on the road. And so what we do there is, we don't, like tonight, I don't normally eat a lot before shows, right? I don't want to be up here. Like, I couldn't help myself tonight, so I was worried you guys were going to eat it all.
You're right.
I saw some of the guys walking to the store, and I go, this doesn't look like leftovers. I better get this shit now.
We've got some tomato salad back.
So normally I just eat a little before, and then we pick out after. So same thing when I'm on tour with Bert. We'll maybe just eat some like light food before, but then I'll have the smoke, I'll have the brisket or beef ribs or whatever I'm doing. And then after the shows, when we start drinking and hanging out, and then like you know, midnight, 1 o'clock, I go, guys, brisket's ready to slice. And then we have late night session, and it's so much fun just incorporating both barbecue in.
Were you on those tours that you did in the drive-ins?
I did all those. I did every single show.
Yeah, I thought I saw you on Instagram or whatever.
I'm not bragging. I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you a fact. I think that in the year 2020, I did more sets in front of a live audience than any other comedian on the planet Earth. Thanks to Bert Kreischer. Because I did more sets than he did, and I did every single one of his shows, and there was no one else on the fucking earth that was performing. And that blew my mind when I started adding them up, and I mean, no one was doing shows anywhere in the world. I looked at my wife and I go, I think I've been busier than any other comedian in the world in 2020. That's kind of fucking cool, right?
I was going to ask you what your best Bert story, because I'm a huge Bert fan. I mean, I think it's hilarious. So do you have, besides the Kool-Aid Rig, we're not going to get into that. We're going to come back, we're going to do a video on that.
All right.
But I just wanted to hear your best Bert story.
Cool.
And if y'all don't know Bert Kreischer, go look him up.
The machine!
The machine. He's hilarious. He's a Florida State guy. He's probably one of the hottest stand-up comedians. To me, he's hilarious.
All right, this isn't really, I don't know if this is that funny, but it's a real good behind the scenes. So the very first time I ever met Bert was probably like 10 years ago. And I was still living in Florida, and I just randomly got paired up to open for him at the West Palm Beach Improv, right? So immediately hit it off, we were drinking beers, you know, whatever. So at the time, what he would do is he'd come up on stage, he'd rip his shirt off. It wasn't like now, where everyone there is his fans and they know that's his thing, whatever. It was just like you go to a comedy club and there's people that like him, but they weren't necessarily there to see him, you know what I mean? So he'd go on stage, he'd rip his shirt off, he'd grab it. Oh, yeah. So Bert's got a sneaky, beautiful dad bod. He's like me. Like I feel like I'm somewhat athletic, but I know that if you take a picture of me, if my posture's not great, I'm gonna look like a gremlin. You know, like, Bert just always looks put together, even though he's fat. Like you know, and he's sneaky athletic. He's good at every sport we've ever played except for basketball. So the first time I ever met him, like 10 years ago, he'd go on stage, he'd rip his shirt off. There was always a bucket of Heinekens on stage. He'd grab one of the Heinekens, he'd pound the whole thing, right? Crowd would go crazy. They'd be playing Black Betty. Crowd would go crazy, and then he'd go into his set. And I mean, it was like magic to watch, right? And he'd do about 10 minutes, and then after 10 minutes, he'd go, you guys are probably tired of looking at my belly, and he'd put his shirt back on. So the shirt thing was only for like the first 10 minutes of his act. So I remember being in the green room with him, first time I ever met him, and he goes, man, I don't know what to do. And I go, what? And he says, well, everyone loves when I rip my shirt off. He goes, but I don't want to be known as that guy. This is free. Yeah, he wasn't doing the machine story. He was like, you know, it's like, I don't want to, like, people might think it's like, I don't want people to think that, like, you know, it's just a trick or something. He's like, I don't want people to not respect me because I rip my shirt off. He's like, I'm probably going to stop doing it. And I go, yeah, man, I can respect that. Whatever. Well, he leaned the other way. But I think it's a good like, I don't know if you guys don't know, he takes his shirt off at the beginning of the set, plays erupts, like it's rock star status shit, and then he does his entire set with his shirt off, like a frat boy holding court, telling stories, like at a party, right? And for an hour, this tubby dude, and you know what's really cool about it is, I noticed this when we were working clubs. We weren't working theaters yet. We were working clubs. I forgot this being live stream, by the way. I'll tell the story. So we can edit this shit out.
I'm so good, truly.
Yeah.
I totally broke that. I do not drink truly. Not even.
Well, the whole world does.
I drink whiskey and Miller Lite.
So, where was it? So what's cool about it was we go work clubs, and he's such a gracious dude. He'd sit and let everyone do meet and greets, right? He would never leave early. He would tell every person would take a picture. He'd wait, and his audience at that point, this was like years later after the story I already told. This was like right before we started in theaters. He was getting pretty big, and people would want to take these tubby dudes would take their shirt off and take a picture with him, and they couldn't wait to put it on Instagram. And I was like, man, I go, Bert, I go, these guys, like we'd be in like Nebraska, and it was just corn-fed dudes, like one after another. I go, these guys have not taken their shirt off since junior high. I go, these guys have been scared to take their shirt off at pool parties since they were kids. I go, and you make them realize it's cool, and you make them feel beautiful, and they cannot wait to put it up on Instagram. Like, I think that's, what a gift to give to people, where they're like, me and the machine! Shirts off! I told you I looked cool, and I just thought it was such a cool thing, man. They empowered so many people in that way.
Uh-oh. What are you cooking out there on the rec tag?
Me right now?
Yeah, like on the road. What are you cooking?
Oh, I thought you were right. I know. I don't think anything right now. Is it on fire? That little smoker, man, you can put a lot. I did a 24-pound Wagyu brisket one time in San Antonio. So we did a show outside of San. What's that?
On the rec tag?
On that thing, yeah. She got that.
I heard about that.
It sounds like bullshit.
All right. Relax, people. There can be more than one good company out there, guys. All right? This isn't the Bloods and the Crips. Just relax. But we're all just trying to cook barbecue to make you laugh. Look, man, I think all this. I'll tell you this. So I see where you're going with this. Kudos to you. Trying to take swipes at my sponsors. I say this with all the honesty in the world. Yeah, he does. Send him a free one first. people hit me up all the time and ask me like, what should I buy as my first smoker and what brands are the best and whatever. And I never trash other brands. I say, look man, if there was a brand, well, I take that back. So like my first smoker I bought. All right. I don't remember the brand. Alright, so here's the ones that deserve to get tried. Any offset smoker you buy on sale at Lowe's or Home Depot, sucks. Alright? It's bad materials, it won't, you gotta do $100 of modifications on it for it not to be eaten everywhere. So
I wholeheartedly agree, but I will say, that's a learning curve.
part of the process.
If you learn on one of those, cheap at, you can learn, and that's what I tell them, man, because you can't knock what somebody can afford, right?
100%. But I think the smokers are kind of like treadmills, where you can buy a used one for $100 really easily. A lot of people buy them and just look at them, and they go, let's get this thing out of the yard, Roger, and then they go. It's like foosball tables. You can always get one cheap somewhere. Someone's wife's table is up.
Dave, I get this question every day, multiple times. What was your first smoker? What did you learn?
The first smoker was that $100 smoker from Home Depot. And I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating. And the smoker sucked, but I sucked even worse. I didn't know. I bought. All right. First of all, it was an offset smoker, and I bought wood chips. And then I didn't know the chips went into the firebox. I put it in the tray. I loaded the tray because I figured, oh, you put charcoal in the box, that's where the fire is, and then the wood brings flavor into the. Yeah. So I had shit in the wrong place everywhere. And I had a hard time learning how to build a fire. So then my neighbor was going to sell a little digital master-built smokehouse. And so it was only $50, and I go, okay, I'll take it. So as I was trying to figure this offset out, I was also cooking on the master-built. And that's where I started learning, like, okay, I can at least maintain temperature, I can learn the food side of it. And then once I learned the food side on that, I revisited the offset, and then I sold the offset, and I bought a $5,000 gravity-fed SS32. And I stepped it up. And then I got a couple different pellet smokers and Santa Maria grill. And, so I have a showroom in my front yard now. But I hear what you're saying, man, and I'm seriously, when people ask me what to buy, I say, this is what I use and this is what I think about it. I go, the other brands that are big brands, I go, they're big brands for a reason and they're just fine. I go, but the things you need to know is these particular brands are usually more expensive than these brands. These brands have good customer service, and I let them fill in the blanks of what they think is good. Because I think as long as you just pick something that works for you, and you, and I'm not an expert either, I've learned a shit ton from being in your showroom and seeing that badass 3-shelf trigger out there. That thing's awesome, right?
You helped me sell it today.
Yeah, I was trying to, so I grew up in the car business, and Malcom said, hey, come home and sell a smoker. So you can't have two salesmen, right? You can't both be like, you can't like pepper the guy. So I was like pretending just to be like a guy who was in the showroom. So I was like, man, this is awesome. Wish I could afford this. You know? Man,
it's got 3 shelves.
Yeah, man. Mine's not nearly as cool as this one, right?
I understand. Man, mine's a 360 or whatever. It's only got 2 shelves. You can cook way more than I can.
Yeah. You got out the good cop back out there, right?
It worked. I'm gonna need you to come back next time.
What's your commission like?
Yeah. So it's good.
So I grew up in the car business, and I do miss sales from time to time. I'll be honest with you. This was the best trick I ever saw someone pull coming in to buy a car. I was working finance at the time, so I get the guy in the box, and he's all chummy with the salesman, and I was like, something seemed weird, and so I asked the customer about it, and I go, do you know him or something? He goes, no, but came in specifically to see him, and he just started working here. And he goes, yeah, he goes, all right. I was like, because I know that when someone starts working at the car dealership, you guys want the deals to go through so that you give that guy confidence, right? And I go, yeah, that's true. Yeah, we definitely like want to push the deals through to give the new guys some confidence. He goes, so what I do is when I want to buy cars, I call and I ask the secretary, hey, I'm supposed to have an appointment with the new guy, but I can't remember his name. And she goes, oh, Jose just started this week. Yeah, Jose, let me talk to him. And then he comes in and sets an appointment with Jose, and he comes in and he doesn't care that Jose's like, doesn't know shit about the car yet. He just knows the manager's going to push the deal through and make it happen. And I'm like, that's a pretty good trick, bro.
I got one for you.
What's up?
Do you compete like the rest of these guys do?
In barbecue?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was the water polo question. Not been playing
He's very fast in laps.
I've never done a formal competition. I would love to. And, you know, part of this tour was a lot of people over the years have invited me to go cook on their teams. And I've just always been like, I don't know if I want to do that, whatever. And then over the past year, I started thinking like, I go, when shit gets back to normal, I want to say yes to everything, right?
Yes.
So I was interviewing Craig Blondis, who's one of the owners at Central Barbecue up in Memphis. And he's like, Dave, you gotta come to Memphis in May. He's like, it would be awesome, dude. You will love it, right? And I go, I'm coming. I just gotta figure out a way to do it. Maybe I can put a show together in Memphis, and then my wife will say yes. And and he goes, well, why don't you do a show at my restaurant? I go, that's a great idea. And I go, why don't I maybe reach out to some other people that are nearby? If I put 2 or 3 shows together, I can really justify going. And then I put it up on my podcast, I put it on Instagram. Next thing I have 2 months of looked up. I'm doing shows in barbecue restaurants, and I think I'm going to Memphis Bay. And it was a blast. They said that there's been DJs, live music, strippers, artists, every kind of entertainment at Memphis in May. But I was the first comedian to ever perform comedy at the Memphis in May Barbecue Festival this past May.
By and saw us at our booth, and instead of going to the restaurant during Memphis in May, you decided to go to their booth at Barbecue Fest. And I told Dave, he asked me about it. I said, well, it could be good, it could be bad.
No. This is what you said, Malcom. I go, so Craig calls me and goes, hey man, how did I do? How about instead of performing at the restaurant, you just perform at the festival in my tent? And I go, hey, that sounds really cool, man. We're filming it. Yeah, what's the worst thing that happen? I go, that could be really cool, man. He's like, yeah, because the river's behind it. It'd be beautiful. So then Malcom came. It was my guest for my 50th episode on my podcast. So I told Malcom, I'm going to perform at the Memphis in May. I go, do you think that's going to be cool? And he goes, well. And there was a long pause. And he goes, it could be cool.
Chuck, you know this. It could go one way or the other, depending on the amount of alcohol served prior to the show, right?
So we did it Thursday night, which was like the big party night, and exactly what Malcom said. He goes, there could be people like next to you with really loud music, and it could be a lot of chaos, right? So sure enough, I was in the tent, and all the people there for his party were actually very attentive and really into it and awesome, right? And the party next to us had the disco ball and the music going.
Stripper poles,
all that shit. But I'm telling you the truth. 5 minutes into my set, we're having a blast. I look over. Everyone from that party was up against the fence listening to me. And then I turn around to the sunset going down over the river, and all these people that were walking by on the sidewalk had stopped, and they were listening to me. And I look over here, the people at this party were listening to me, and I go, oh, this is so cool. In comedy, you have those shows every now and then.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone, whatever your job is, I'm sure you have these moments where you get into a little bit of a zone. I was like, this is something that's unique. And I got real comfortable, and I started getting into the material, and I had a blast.
Well, I hadn't told you this, but after that show, the next day, Craig came down to my booth. And he was like, man, oh man, talk to Dave. I said, yeah, he came by. And he's like, no, you're talking to him after the show. And I said, no, I haven't talked to him since then. He said, man, it was amazing. He's like, I'm so glad that he's coming down and he's gonna do something at your place. He's like, man, we gotta go to California.
Suck it, bro! You're moving to California?
We're gonna go to California. He already had some contacts and everything. He's like, are you on board? I need to know right now. We're gonna go to California. We're gonna book these dates. We're gonna do this stuff with barbecue shop.
Love it! Let's do it, bro. I gotta tell my wife that Craig and Malcom are sleeping on my couch. That's awesome. Look, I think that this is the tip of the iceberg, man. This was a real leap of faith to come out and just see if this would work, right? And there's one thing, by the way, real quick, just to give some kudos, my friends Karen and Autumn are traveling with me, and there's no way we can do this. They are the unsung heroes pulling this off, man, because, I mean, there's no way we could get from spot to spot and set all this shit up and film it all or whatever, so thank you guys. But we had no idea how this was going to go. Like, I told them, when I was pitching them to come with me, I go, guys, this is going to be great. It could be terrible. I don't fucking know. We're just going to try it, you know? And it's been great. Every show, there's been something uniquely cool about it. And I think it's just that you, me, and I think it was Heath or somebody were talking before, and we're like, man, there's so many ways I can incorporate, you know, the two, you know? We can do competitions where I bring comedians out and comedians to join the cook team. It's taking this footage from this tour and pitching different TV shows. There's so many ways to incorporate the two, because I think there's a lot of crossover. But yeah, man, come to California, let's do some shit.
I've never been to California today.
You ever done anything in the Viper room?
Drink. I've never performed there, no. But it is a cool thing. It's not a bad question because in LA, there's like cool shit everywhere, man. You could do, I never thought I would do comedy in drive-in movie theaters, you know? It's like, you never know, man. There's so many cool historic venues and different creative shows that people come up with. And yeah, it wouldn't be, there has been comedy in Viper Room before, and I wasn't there.
Hollywood Bowl on your bucket list?
Hollywood, I saw Buffett there, really badass. I got to do, we did one of the drive-in shows at the Rose Bowl, which was badass. And Jay Leno popped in to do a set. Jay Leno went before me. I was like, this is crazy. So you just never know. Hollywood Bowl, man. I mean, that would be like. Well, so I am going with Bert September 8th to Red Rocks in Colorado.
When did you go there?
Yeah, let's do it. Come on. Everyone, let's go!
Let's get a bus.
Go ahead and book us the VIP. We need like, what, 30, 40?
I got.
Nando's going to Red Rock.
Dude, I did this festival in Nebraska that was in Johnny Carson, in Norfolk, Nebraska. Johnny Carson's hometown. That's why that festival there, right? And there's so many small towns in Nebraska that would happen. A whole town would rent a bus and be like, we're going to the comedy show in Norfolk. I remember my buddy Mikey Winfield came out, and I think he was the only black comic on the bill that night. And he goes, my buddies are robbing your houses right now. Mikey, bro. Turn the live stream off, please. Mikey, if you guys don't know Mikey Winfield, look him up. He's funny as shit.
Speaking of, who are your favorite comedians?
Brian Regan's always my number one guy. I love him, man. Which he just recorded a special. It's on Netflix.
Where do we know him from, Shell?
Brian Regan.
No.
Do you know him, bro?
No.
Oh, he's great. He's
How's that? Shell knows all.
he's so funny, man. He's so goofy. And he's funny. I mean, you can watch it from. He's been around forever, dude. He doesn't do as much mainstream stuff other than his specials, but he's just been around forever. I promise you, go home, YouTube Brian Regan emergency room bit. It's one of the funniest shit. See, look, shit. I like. Oh, there you go. I don't know. It's hard for me. Like, Is it hard for you to like say who your favorite barbecue guys are? Like when you're like, cause you're like,
They're
oh
all
yeah,
They're all here.
He's Rob.
They're all here.
No, that's not Vander, that's my hero. Jay Durbin, that's him.
No, it's true, man. It's because like a lot of my favorite comedians are people you probably don't know because they're my like friends who I get to see a lot.
We want to know him, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, so the ones that you probably already know are the guys like Bert, Jim Jeffries, Bill Burr, those dudes because I like storytellers, right? A guy who you might not know, but is incredible to watch live is a guy named Ian Bagg. He works the room, and he's just incredible the way he does it. And it's not in a way where like, oh, you're picking on me. He just does it in such a masterful way where he learns something about you, he learns something about you, he learns something, and he ties it into his jokes, and he remembers the detail, and he gives you a nickname, and it's fun for me to watch because it's not what I want to do at all or what I'm good at. So you could become a fan as a comedian watching him. You know, Ian Bagg, check him out. He's awesome. Greg Fitzsimmons is a guy who's been around forever and always makes me laugh. Lori Kilmartin's a really dark comedian who's a writer on Conan. She's hilarious. Danny Jollis is a guy who's getting a lot of acting jobs right now. Just message me. I'll send you a list.
How did you know, like, so you're water polo at Auburn. What was your first job after Auburn? Or how did you know you were going to get into? I want to know when Dave decides he's going to go for water polo or whatever what was your major? How did you get to stand-up comedy? Like for a living?
My major was
Hell yeah! Woo! I majored in that for about 8 years.
So the cliche answer is, I was always kind of like the class clown. My mom was a great storyteller growing up, so I watched her hold court at dinner, and I was always an outgoing dude, right? So that's the cliche answer. You're like, I just told jokes in school or whatever. But when I was at Auburn, you know, I had a great books professor who told me I was a really good writer and I should consider majoring in English. And I ended up actually minoring in creative writing. And one of my biggest regrets ever. I looked this dude in the face who just gave me one of the greatest compliments, and I told him, well, I'm going to stick with business because I want to make money in life. And then I really didn't realize I was just shitting on his profession. and I also didn't realize I was really wrong because it doesn't matter what you major in or what.
My 7th grade band director told me I would never read nothing without pain. Thanks, Anders.
As he secretly placed his trunk in the bathroom.
Joke's on you!
But, you know, I did end up minoring in creative writing. What I didn't realize at the time was it doesn't matter what you do in life. You have to be passionate about it, and you can find a way to make money. You know, barbecue is the greatest example of that. You know, but whether it's construction, barbecue, you know, selling cars, sales, real estate, whatever.
Open up toys on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a great example. Just boxing shit on YouTube. These guys make millions of bucks. So if you do something you're passionate about, you have an opportunity to be successful and make money at it, right? And even if you don't make money at it, you're gonna live a good life. You're doing something you love doing. You know what I mean? So, anyways, I liked writing, and I started freelance writing for like high school sports and stuff. And I chased my wife, who's now my girlfriend, is now my wife, up to Charlotte, North Carolina after college. And there was a cool little sketch comedy club there called The Perch. And I went there one night because my wife knew I love Saturday Night. I love Dana Carvey. I love Saturday Night Live. That was my jam back then, right? So I went and I watched the show, and I immediately ran up to him after the show and said, I want to write sketches for you guys. I think I could be good at it, but I had never done it before. I said, well, we just write our own stuff. So you have to try out to be in the group. So I did. I tried out to be in the group. And it was me and 2 other guys. And they had 1 spot to fill. And those guys were better performers than me. They were wackier, whatever. They could do impressions. But I felt like I held my own coming up with characters or whatever. And the last thing is, the guy goes, tell me your best story. He goes, listen, tell me your best story. And I heard him like emphasize that. I go, oh, he doesn't care if it's funny or not. He just wants a good story. So one guy tells some goofy story about pulling his pants down somewhere, and another guy tells a goofy, funny story that didn't sound like it was true. And then I looked this dude in the face and told him a story about getting a chicken wing stuck in my head. And it had no punchline yet. It was just a true story, something that happened to me a year earlier at the time. And he goes, that's incredible. And I got into the group, and I didn't stutter in So I got in the group, and I did sketch comedy for 2 years. And he would come out at the beginning, and he would do 5 minutes, the head writer guy, he would do 5 minutes of like telling people the rules, and being like, here's how it's gonna go tonight, and do some jokes. And he did the same jokes for like 2 years I was there. So finally I go, hey dude, can I try to do that one night? And he goes, please, bro. He's like, I'm so sick of it. I go, all right, so I went out and I started doing the 5-minute warm-up, and I go, man, this is so cool. Because when I was writing like journalism, I would like have to write something, send it to an editor, they'd change all my words, it would go to print, and then maybe like 2 weeks later I'd run into a buddy and he'd go, hey man, I like that article you wrote. And then I got into sketch comedy. It was a lot more like instant gratification. You think of an idea, you write it down, you rehearse it, you buy props, you put it on stage, you get stand-up. You could come up with something 5 minutes ago, walk up on stage, say it, and then know whether it's funny or not. So I got addicted to that. I go, man, I go stand-up for what's that. And then that's when I started leaning into stand-up.
So what you're telling me, you get paid to do that.
Crazy, right?
I love it.
Yeah, that's insane. Not a lot.
What's your end goal?
On comedy?
Yep.
Yeah, hell yeah, that's a good question.
My end goal.
To raise your kids right and to get them through high school or college or what?
Afford a house in Los Angeles.
Yeah, what's your
So, I mean, I would say, I already feel accomplished because I've been doing it for a very long time. I think I've made it past a lot of thresholds where a lot of people would have quit. I think that my peers respect me, and I've made a lot of friendships that matter, and I genuinely love what I do. But I think the next level to unlock for me is financial security. And stand-up comedy it's difficult because there's so many people that want to do it, you know? So if I say, hey man, and we all have to do this at certain points in our career, where you say, I respect my ability and I'm demanding more money. Well, there's another dude who will just come in under you and go, I'll do it for half, you know? And we just kill ourselves because we undercut each other, you know what I mean? So it's getting to a point where enough people know you and want to see you, and you can put asses in seats, which is what it's all about at the end of the day, to where then you can do what you want to do, which is the beautiful thing of knowing or seeing a guy like Bert, who 10 years ago was a guy who was successful but was just working the clubs like everyone else, to now where he's got a very passionate fan base who is genuinely happy for his success. So I would like to be there. I would love to. You know what I would like? I would like to have a room like this where I felt a lot of love tonight. People came because they love barbecue. We have that in common, and it's my people. And I would like to see this room times 1,000 one day.
You're worth every penny of that. Oh, for real.
Thank you, brother. So on that note, I'm selling a rub.
That's right, and CDs.
I do, yeah. So let me tell the story of my rub. So I had, first of all,
We'll get to the rub. Let's hear the story of the CDs and DVDs.
Okay. What do you want to know? I've had 2 albums. This is my most recent one. It's only got one story that you heard tonight. It was the Swim story. It's on that album. But everything else is totally different material. And it's got a CD and a DVD in it, and you still have either of those things to play. CDs or DVDs.
That was what I was getting at. The rub, you already tried the rub. You didn't even know it. But it was on the chicken, and we used this seasoning. y'all know that me and Mark have our own seasonings and stuff, but Dave, he's underselling it because it's awesome. And I tried it today for the first time. It is one of the best, like rotisserie style, coarse ground seasonings. It puts a flavor on meat that's awesome. And not that we're putting a pinch on y'all, you don't have to buy it or sell it. We're gonna have it in the shop because I want to get some to sell. But if you want to take some, yeah, no, I mean for real, no, for real, it's good stuff. And I only tried it today. You brought it in. You didn't even ask me to try it. When you let me taste it, I said we're putting that on the chicken, and that's what we did. Because I knew it was a good chicken.
Can't get a better endorsement than that from this guy, right? I was pretty cautious of that, man. So many. That's the number one question I get is whenever I cook something. Most of people go, "What'd you use for rub?" And I'm like, "Rub's it's like the easiest secret out there. It's salt and pepper, bro. Like whatever else you want to mix in there is fine. And you can really hone it in." I go, but anyone can make a good rub with just salt and pepper, it's a good starting point, you know what I'm saying? And so I respect guys like this who have experience and have done the steps and really honed in and made awesome rubs or whatever, that I felt like I had no business being like, try my rub, right? But then I had so many people ask me and want to buy a rub from me, and finally I go, you know what? I might not feel comfortable. It would be like some guy who's been doing comedy for 6 months and coming in here and acting like an expert. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be that guy in the barbecue world. So I go, you know what I am really confident in though, is that I'm really fucking good at cooking on the road and tour buses and trailers and stuff like that. So I do that. When I go on the road in the tour bus, I make an all-purpose rub where I just mix whatever I have in my cabinet into something I like. And then I take that and I use that on eggs, I use it on steak, I use it for pork on my barbecue, I use it for everything. Chicken, And so I feel confident saying that I can make a good rub. So I made an all-purpose rub that you can use on any of that stuff. And it's something that's always going to be right there. And if you're not sure what you should use in something, you can use that. And I put a lot of pepper flakes in it, so I think pepper flakes look cool.
What kind of smoker do you cook on at home?
I have
All three.
So I personally have the Assassin 32. It's a gravity-fed smoker. It's 900 pounds. It looks like a big tank ball. And then I have 2 or 3 Rectex pellet smokers, and I have a Santa Maria grill that I like to cook on a lot now. I'm really getting into that.
I mean, y'all know me. I cook on them all. If I had to pick one, the only smoker I'm going to cook on is probably going to be a Old Hickory. Just because I know that I can cook some barbecue that I can sell to people, I can feed my family with that. But I'm a pellet grill guy too. I cook on Traegers, I cook on Weber, I cook on Green Egg. If I cook on these Outlaws that we cook the food on today, it don't matter. If I can build a fire in it, I'm gonna cook. Martin, what about you?
I'm right there with you. I just enjoy cooking. It don't matter what it's on or what fire source it is. It's just cooking. It gets everybody together like tonight. And if I'm gonna be lazy, it's gonna be a pellet grill. If I'm gonna sit out there and drink beer and have a good time, it's gonna be a stick burner.
That's the best thing about smokers too, is I found that for 12 hours I can tell my wife, I'm busy, I'm cooking! I put a hammock next to my smoker, I'm like, I'm working on a meal!
The bit
for
you
Tuesday.
did on the 160 degrees, getting up in the middle of the night, checking on it, I've been there,
I saw
sell
that.
those, that's comedy.
That's gonna be, we're gonna work the beats out on that, that's gonna be a good bit.
Because before that, if it wasn't meat on the grill, it was Dave's crying. Dog needs out. If it's brisket out there, I got it. I'm singing on that butt.
It's like, everything else in like my whole life, it's like the alarm goes off and I'm just like, but it's like the alarm goes off for 160 degrees in the brisket, I'm like, time to wrap this in.
Hey, speaking of rubs, does Swine Life or Killer Box have anything in the works as far as rubs?
Swine Life, no.
Like new stuff?
We use.
Oh, can you tell about stuff?
Wait. Call about it. It was good.
Was it good? Yeah.
That's why I wanted to tell about it. It was incredible.
So we got a new rub to come out for beef.
Use it today.
Use it today. It's nothing fancy. It's just
Wait. because it is fancy.
Nothing we do is fancy.
Well, maybe it tastes, it's got mushroom. Like,
Mushroom and wheat, mushroom every day.
it tastes fancy.
Yeah. I'll agree. I'll agree.
I put a monocle and a top hat on when I
What
tried
do y'all call it?
Prime beef.
Prime beef. That was on the beef. Every bit of beef we had today, we put a little bit of in the mushrooms too, and it is a phenomenal season. So y'all be able to look out for that.
it. It was really good.
Mark's underselling it.
What's the name?
Prime beef. Where y'all been?
Swine life prime beef. Yeah.
Swine life prime beef. That was your nickname.
I don't
yesterday,
have.
right?
I don't have a favorite. I really don't. Yeah, it's
Mom,
good.
got anything new?
I don't.
All
Oh, I
right.
got a white barbecue sauce. Y'all had that tonight. That's well, yeah, they got it right. Katie, it's coming.
Or a month out?
Yeah, you'll be able to get that.
All right, maybe.
Most important thing is, before y'all leave, support Dave. Get him CD. Get some rub.
The most
He's
important.
got to get to Denver, right?
I think that's all. No, listen, the fact y'all came out is the number one thing that I appreciate. Coming out, being an awesome audience. If you're on Instagram, please follow me. That's
That's right,
super
that's
helpful.
right, that's right.
AW Comedy Postage. I love to keep in touch with people like you guys.
Let him know y'all are here tonight.
Yeah, please.
Go follow him, let him know. And if you didn't like something, let him know that. Heckle him on the ground. Don't do it here, heckle him on the ground.
I'm deleting this live stream. So, all right.
And
So
will you be back? That's the biggest question.
I will come to Hernando, Mississippi anytime you guys have me.
We're gonna do a YouTube collab video doing burnt ribs, Kool-Aid ribs.
I can't. So when I posted that I was here, I got so many messages and comments where people go, "Oh my God, you're with the legend, Malcom. Please make a video."
The legend!
People were like, they're acting like I showed up here and you were like, "Hey, let's make a video." And I go, "I don't think that's a good idea." All right, so
If
we'll
you
wrap.
brought Bert, we'd probably have him in video. No. No, I'll make one with you before I make one with Bert.
That's a 180. We're deleting this live stream.
Delete it.
All right, so
Tyler, you can't do
we'll wrap this up so we can have drinks and have fun and chill out,
All right.
guys. But is there any last questions you have?
Yeah.
And then I have a question to end on.
I have a statement for the question.
Please, sir.
Just from Malcolm Reed, he's like our pink lady.
I didn't hear you said Malcolm Reed is our
Nobody
king.
tried
I can't wait till I make that story good and everyone's looking for pink ladies.
If you ever get to Hernando, go see Malcolm Reed.
So when I was in LA and when I was in Auburn and I interviewed Willie's guy, I told him the story about getting the thing stuck in my nose and he was laughing at it. And then I gave him some of my rub and he started experimenting with it. And he said, he goes, "Dave, he goes, I haven't added a flavor of wings in 20 years. He goes, I think I'm gonna add a Meat Dave flavor rub. We gotta come up with some sort of a name that has to do with your nose or something like that." And I go, "Man, ain't that a life lesson that something shitty can happen to you in your early 20s, and 20 years later something cool can happen, like you meet someone, you're gonna name them anyway." Because you told that story to strangers, and nothing will make me happier than if I tell that pink lady story enough and figure out how to make it funny and keep working on it. And so then that reaches that lady one day, and she realizes that she's a hero in her neighborhood. Like, that's the power of like the internet these days, the comedy. to where you are now, what's been the best part